Sonic the Hedgehog is one of my favorite video game franchises, period. While it has had its ups and downs, I'll always say that I'm a Sonic fan without a hint of irony in my voice. That being said, Sonic has been in Death Battle since 2011, and it's had its fair share of episodes. Which one is the best episode? Let's find out. Also, my buddy Lucara Boy did his own video on every Mario matchups ranked, so go watch that one after this one.
Oh my god, I'm glowing! Why am I glowing?
Words cannot describe how much I hate this episode. Mewtwo vs. Shadow is what you get when you mix a piece of shit with two legitimately cool characters. For starters, the analysis is just so boring and unfunny. The Mewtwo banging joke makes me cringe every time I hear it. And Shadow's analysis wasn't any better. Now, the average newcomer might think, sure, the analysis is bad, but maybe the fight's better. Well, that person would be dead frickin' wrong, because this animation is even worse than the analysis. The setup is just so bad. Shadow seeing a Chaos Emerald being swarmed by a bunch of Zubats and immediately attacking while screaming, "Get away!" is out of character when he's supposed to be calm and collected. Speaking of which, the voice acting is also shit. Well, that's to be expected when Takahata 101 was specifically told to play the character badly. Yeah, no joke, the voice actor was told to do a shit job at voicing the character. Oh, and let's not forget about the frickin' unfinished backgrounds. Look at this shit! This is supposed to be a serious fight between two characters, and not even the backgrounds look good. And then there's the death. Good lord, the death. Mewtwo erases Shadow's memory, and then Shadow delivers the "Why am I glowing?" line. And then he's impaled by the spoon and dies. There is absolutely nothing redeeming about this fight, save for the rigging on Shadow looking really well done. This entire episode is embarrassment to Death Battle as a whole.
Luigi could be next to you, watching you, right now.
The only reason this episode is above Mewtwo vs. Shadow is because at least this animation is actually finished, and at least the invisible Luigi joke is funny. Other than that, this episode is just as bad. Sure, the animation is finished, but that doesn't make it good. Luigi basically lands no meaningful damage on Tails, while Tails just bodies Luigi without any effort. And why does Tails still hold on to Luigi when Luigi uses the Vanish Power Flower, which makes him both invisible and intangible? Why is Luigi treated like a massive dumbass? Why is the death so bad? Luigi is just disrespected so much in this episode. The post-analysis isn't even that good either. Using the Radish Free from Mario 2, which was a dream, makes no sense. This episode is bad and I hate it.
This'll be over in a nanosecond.
My god, this episode is a mess. Metal vs. Zero is an episode that doesn't really have anything going for it. Metal's analysis is fine enough. I like the band name joke, and the delivery of the lines are pretty good. The Boomstick ex-wife joke was pretty bad. Again. Zero's analysis, however, is just bland. There's nothing of substance here. So sure, the analysis is serviceable at best, but how is the animation? Well, it's even worse. I don't know whose idea it was, but the use of 3D sprites in this episode was just a horrible decision. They look fine on Metal, for the most part, but they look absolutely horrible on Zero. They are janky as all hell. And the sound design, good lord, the sound design. If you thought Hulk vs. Broly had bad sound design, you have not heard Metal Sonic vs. Zero. Every hit feels like it does nothing. Even when Metal is grinding Zero into the ground, there is no impact. Sound design wise, there's like a little crater, but other than that, no impact. Just listen. If I could give some positives to the episode, well, this shot is well animated, the Metal Overlord looking over Zero is pretty cool, and the death is pretty cool. Overall, this episode is just mediocre, and people wonder why I'm at Night vs. Zero so much. This episode is okay. I liked Amy's analysis, the Ultimate Stalker joke was pretty good, and the Ham NATO joke made me laugh harder than I should have. that's about it. Ramona's analysis was also pretty okay. I like Boomstick's nonchalant response to Wiz talking about how Ramona's bag is an entirely separate and endless dimension of reality. Overall, the analysis is fine. The animation is also fine. Amy getting pissed at Ramona for no reason is kinda dumb, and so is Ramona attacking Amy out of nowhere. But the fight is well animated. It's fast-paced, frantic fun for the whole family. The rigging for the sprites is also really good. This shot in particular is really well animated. But that being said, nothing really interesting happens in this fight. The only notable thing that happens is Amy using her Ham NATO attack to suck up Ramona, and Scott face-planting into a wall because of it. That's about it, really. Still, episode's pretty good. The death is kind of weak, but the post-analysis uses the rooftop run music, and I love that.
Don't mess with the Hog's dog!
Hot take, but Wally vs. Sonic is an episode that I'm not too fond of. I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily love it either. I love Wally West. He's in my top 10 favorite DC characters, and I grew up with the Archie Sonic comics. I had those archive books where they would put a bunch of issues into one book, and I loved them. So naturally, I should love this episode, right? But I don't, and here's why. While I don't hate the episode, I don't rave about it either. The analysis is pretty good. I am a bit tired of the Flash Gordon joke, but this is like the second time it was used, so I'll cut it some slack. I do like the Lex Luthor has no idea who this is joke in Wally's background. That got a chuckle out of me. I also liked Wally's end clip. It was cute. I love it. But other than that, Wally's analysis is just kind of there. Naturally, you might think that Sonic's analysis is better, right? No. Oh, no, it's not. Outside of the team reminding me that Sonic's canonical full name is Ogilvy Maurice Hedgehog, this analysis doesn't really do anything for me. Not to mention, they kind of just blaze through Sonic's analysis. Guys, I know Sonic's fast and all, but you don't have to rush through his feats. But I do like Wiz having a mental breakdown at the end. Speaking of which, did anyone else realize that Wiz was kind of unenthusiastic about Sonic's analysis? I don't know if Ben was sick or anything, but he kind of sounded a bit down in the dumps. That's not a fault of the episode, it's just something I noticed. Anyway, the fight itself was pretty good. It kind of just starts without any indication of how they got to the Cosmic Interstate. At least I assume it's the Cosmic Interstate, otherwise I would have no idea where they would be. Maybe if there was like a previous scene showing how they met and Sonic challenging Wally to a race, and then this would make sense. But whatever, it's fine. I am a bit curious about how Sonic got a chili dog in space, though. Maybe he had one stuck to one of his quills or something, I don't know. One thing I really like about this episode is the sprites. They kind of go for the Ben 10 versus Green Lantern style of sprite, and I love it. Even if Wally does look cursed running towards the camera. Personally, I would rather have Wally look like his rebirth self just to differentiate himself from Barry. You know, with like the whole kind of a mix between Flash and Kid Flash costume where his hair is kind of out and it's got blue lightning instead of yellow. But it's fine, whatever. Oh, speaking of Barry, that's one thing this episode does better than Flash vs. Quicksilver. The fighting. There's a lot more combat and interaction between Wally and Sonic than there was between Barry and Pietro. But while this episode has a better fight, Barry vs. Pietro had better speed. This episode really doesn't feel as fast as it should have been. And granted, we did get a fast episode with Goku Black vs. Reverse Flash, which was fast and had a good fight. But, man, this episode really should have been a lot faster. And while I'm bitching about things, this episode has one of the worst cases of missed potential I have ever seen. All Wally does is run fast, steal speed, throw lightning, phase through fire, and time travel. Meanwhile, all Sonic does is run fast, go super for like 2 seconds, go ultra, turn the floor into ice, shoot fire, and fire a laser. Like Alien X in Ben 10 vs. Green Lantern, Ultrasonic is really mishandled here. Why not have him create a wall of stone that Wally crashes into? Why not have him turn Wally into steam only for Wally to turn back because he has perfect control of his molecules? Why not have him send Wally to the zone of silence only for Wally to vibrate his molecules so fast that he completely destroys it? Yes, those are all from Nemesis Bloodreich's video, but I don't care. Those are really good ideas. There are just so many things you could do with this, but it did not happen. Why didn't it happen? It could have been, like, the best episode of Season 7, but because of the lack of potential, or the missed potential, it's kind of more like the 4th or 3rd at best. Finally, the ending. Sonic's Fate and Speed speech is pretty cringe, and completely out of character, since he's basically admitting that Wally is faster than him. But at least the build-up to the death is really good. Wally's pushing through the Chaos Control beam only to turn into Ghost Rider for some reason, which is pretty cool. And the death is also pretty good too. I like the idea of Wally punching Sonic so hard that he's literally seeing his life flash, get it, before his mono eye. Of course, there's a reference to Stanica there, and that's just perfect. Just wish I could say the same for the post-analysis. The post-analysis is shorter than Mario vs. Sonic's post-analysis, and that is a much simpler matchup. Not to mention, they didn't even bring up the billionth ring aura, which literally prevents Sonic from dying. Even a simple, Wally has proven to be superior to extra-dimensional forces before, so it's likely that he could negate the billionth ring aura, finishing off Sonic for good, would have sufficed. Overall, episode is good, post-analysis brings it down a bit, and of course, Way Past Flash frickin' slaps. Gotta say, after rewatching this one, I enjoyed it a lot more than when I viewed it the first time. It's probably my favorite Season 7 episode now. Not really that high of a bar to fill, but hey, whatever works for you. This episode's pretty good. Eggman's analysis is entertaining. I like how they talk about his army at the start, bring up Scratch and Grounder in the middle, and talk about Eggman himself near the end. Wily's analysis is also just as good. It follows the same format, only with his robots, but I like how they bring up the fact that Wily does in fact know ninjutsu. Also, they gave Sheepman his own little segment.
Bah.
The animation is dated, to say the least, but for the time that it was made, it's pretty impressive. It does just start out of nowhere, something that would happen again 8 years later, but again, it's an old episode, so cut us some slack. It even got a voice actor for Eggman, but not for Wily for some reason. I like how the fight escalates as well. Eggman sends out some of his big guns, and Wily reacts by sending out the robot monsters. And I don't know about you, but Beta smacking away the little robots is hilarious. As well as the Scratch and Grounder vs. Sheepman fight. My favorite part has to be the appearance of Metal Sonic in this fight. It really has a lot of impact, mostly because there is actually a build-up before you see him. Just wish Bass had the same type of build-up, because instead he just arrives and announces he's a badass. That's a bit underwhelming. Okay, what else? I like Eggman using the Death Egg robot to squish Wily after Wily begs to be spared, showing his ruthlessness. I like the brief scuffle him and Wily get into. And I like Eggman laughing to himself as the X-Fleet arrives. And that's about it. The fight just sort of ends after Metal goes Metal Overlord. Overall, Eggman vs. Wily is a pretty solid episode. Ha! Get it? Solid! Like an egg! Ha! Don't really have much to say on this episode. The analysis is pretty good. It goes in depth with the characters' arsenals, but not so much the characters themselves, but that's to be expected from a Season 1 episode. The animation has dated by quite a bit, but it's still pretty good, as is the voice acting. Lanny Patter does a great job at Vegeta, as always, and Takahata 101 does a good job with Shadow, but this episode is more comedy-focused than the other two Shadow episodes. The animation also rushes straight to Super Saiyan Vegeta and Super Shadow, which is a bit odd and kind of kills the pacing a bit, but at least Vegeta's rip-off line is pretty good, as is the fighting between Super Shadow and Super Vegeta. I also like how Shadow just teleports Vegeta to different places, like under the water with a bunch of Cheep Cheeps, or straight to the moon, which, as cool as it is, makes really no sense because Saiyans can't breathe in space. But at least we got Vegeta punching the moon and Shadow teleporting it back, which is probably the best moment in the entire animation. Bit unfortunate that the death is a bit abrupt and lacks any impact, but hey, it's still pretty good. Overall, I'd say this episode is good, but not perfect.
Whoa.
Mario vs. Sonic 2011 is what I would call an oldie but a goodie. The analysis is pretty short and rushes through a lot of the two characters' arsenal, but that's what YouTube was like back in 2011. But even for how short the analysis is, it's still pretty good. The animation suffers from the problem of the sudden start, but the actual fighting is really good. Mario using his power-ups to try and overwhelm Sonic, while Sonic uses his power-ups to counter Mario's, is a pretty cool idea, and one conclusion they came to in the analysis, which is pretty cool. Mario's brief combo in Sonic ending with his forward smash from Smash Bros. Is also really well animated. Unfortunately, the montage kinda breaks the pacing a little bit, but it leads to the volcano full of the bombs, which is a pretty funny gag. And Sonic desperately trying to escape the water while that nightmare drowning music is playing is legitimately tense and leads to a pretty good fake out before revealing Supersonic's transformation. Sonic legit lasts longer as Supersonic here than any of his other episodes. Metal Mario's transformation is also pretty good. It's sudden, and the sound design of him hitting the ground with a heavy thud is great, as is him catching Supersonic with his bare hands. But when Mario becomes giant, that's when things get good. Giant Mario one-punching Supersonic has so much impact, and the chase that happens before the killing blow is quite stressful for a Season 1 episode. The worst thing I could say about this episode is that the next fight is Justin Bieber versus Rebecca Black. And the fact that, well, it has kind of dated a bit, but it's still pretty good. It's definitely worth a watch.
Faker.
This next one is going to be a bit of a cop-out, but if you want to know my opinions on this episode, go watch my Season 8 retrospective. But for a quick summary for those who don't want to, I like this episode a lot. The animation was really good, as was the track and the voice acting. Ryuko was a little more in line with her introduction character arc than she was near the end, because she was a little edgier here. But Shadow stayed on character a lot during this episode, so that was pretty good. Overall, I like this episode. Some of the facial expressions, especially for Ryuko, were a bit off. Didn't really like Shadow's mouth as well. But, yeah, I like this episode. Good episode overall, would recommend. For those of you who don't know, Mario vs. Sonic 2018 is one of my favorite episodes of Death Battle, period. And while I do need to update my top 10 favorite Death Battle list, I can confidently say that this episode is not moving off. For starters, the analysis. It's really good for both characters. Whis and Boomstick's lines are delivered well as always, but this time they have the advantage of being animated, which can lead to some pretty funny moments, like Boomstick knowing how much the gold chain chomp is worth just by looking at it, or my personal favorite, the speed drinking joke. Boomstick waiting a bit before he just answers Wiz with, "I'm already done," cracks me up every time. I know my Boomstick impression is terrible, don't judge me. I also like what they bring up in the analysis. They bring up a lot more obscure facts and items, like the Ultra Hammer for Mario being one of the 7 Star Children, and the fact that Sonic was born on Christmas Island. That's pretty neat. Not a big fan of the lowballing though. Mario and Sonic are both characters that can easily reach universal to multiversal levels of power and faster than light to massively faster than light plus speeds. But in this episode, they mostly use city level counts, and both characters are put at massively hypersonic, which is not true at all. Maybe they just didn't want the two characters to be compared to Goku. But even with the sheer amount of lowballs that the characters are subject to, I really like how in-depth the analysis goes, especially with Sonic's speed. The animation is also pretty good. It's done in a hand-drawn style of animation, and I must say, this style works really well for Mario and Sonic characters. If we ever get a Luigi vs. Tails remake, possibly for 200th episode, then this is the style it should be done in. Anyway, I really like the fight. While it doesn't use as much as the 2011 version, it still uses newer stuff like the cat suit and the double cherry for Mario, as well as the burst wisps for Sonic. Also, I really like Mario ripping his skin just to reveal his regular attire underneath. That got a chuckle out of me. And the ending. Oh god, the ending. We get a pretty great aerial battle between the two, which ends in them breaking the moon in half. Then, as they're falling, Sonic does a final spin dash to try and beat Mario, but Mario catches him and uses his pyrokinesis to set Sonic on fire, and he yeets him into the ocean, creating a giant mushroom cloud with eyes because it's a Mario staple. That is how you end a fight. Unfortunately, this episode has its problems. I already mentioned the low bowling, but another thing they get wrong is the characterization. They completely butchered Mario's character here. Now, my buddy Lucara Boy has already talked about this in his own video about every Mario matchup ranked, but I'm going to copy him and talk about it as well. Mario may have a simple character, but he's not an arrogant dick who gets mad at other people for stealing his beach chair. Mario is kind, he's courageous, Mario is heroic, Mario cares about his friends and even includes his enemies in sports and games like kart racing or soccer. Despite what game theory and dorkly might have you believe, Mario isn't a sociopath or an egotistical bastard. Mario is a compassionate person who cares for his brother and girlfriend. He is the type of person to go up against gods and monsters that most people would run in fear of. But here, he's no more than just another game theory episode or another dorkly skit. This episode may be good, but this blatant mischaracterization is not. Oh, yeah, and for those wondering, Sonic's characterization isn't that much better either. Look, I get they needed a reason to start the fight, but couldn't they go with anything else instead of Sonic taking someone's beach chair? Because he doesn't do that. He's not that type of person. They even said in the analysis that he's the definition of, like, kind and heroicness. So was there really no other reason? No other way to get them to fight other than stealing a beach chair? Did they base his personality off of Dorkly too?
I'd shower you with coconut cream pies.
I think it's safe to say that Knuckles vs. Donkey Kong is the best Sonic episode in Death Battle. Maybe if Bowser vs. Eggman happens one day, then that will change. But for now, this is peak Sonic in Death Battle. And it just so happens to have my favorite Sonic character, so hashtag bias. Donkey Kong's analysis is super entertaining. It starts out with a beautiful poem by Wiz about the law of the jungle, only for Boomstick to cut him off and talk about how if you touch DK's bananas, you're gonna die. Pretty scientifically accurate. I also like how they talk about each generation of Donkey Kong and how each one is called Donkey Kong. Bringing up some real-world facts about Gorillas 2, that's pretty cool. And of course, referencing the DKC TV show. And how batshit insane it was. Knuckles' analysis is also pretty good. It brings up Knuckles' family history, bringing up absurd facts like how he can glide by trapping wind under his dreadlock for some reason, that's how he glides. And his power of punching his problems until they submit to his alpha male chadness. Good stuff all around. Overall, this analysis is really funny. I like it. The fight is also really good. It starts out with Knuckles eating a banana in an incredibly cursed way, which just goes to show how naive and gullible Knuckles can be. And DK retaliating because Knuckles ate his banana, my god, that sounds sexual, is also pretty in character for the monkey. The sound design is also really good. Every hit the two land feels impactful, especially Knuckles punching so hard that he breaks the camera, and DK clapping Knucks to death. Just listen.
Oh no!
The slow-mo Matrix scene was also pretty good too. It really goes to show how good the rigging for the sprites were. I also really liked the fight before the minecart chase. Knuckles using his speed in combination with his digging to overwhelm DK, and DK by responding by slapping the ground, giving Knuckles a time limit before he is buried in dirt. And then Knuckles running so fast that he creates a giant hole that DK falls in, only for Knuckles to fall in because he got hit with a homing coconut. The only bad parts about this episode are the DK sprites and the fake out. The fake out makes no sense, especially when we just saw Knuckles get pulverized just moments earlier. But at the end of the day, this is the best Sonic Death Battle, no questions asked. Well, that was my list. Did you agree? Let me know in the comments below. Also, subscribe if you feel like it. I can't force you to do anything because that is illegal. And if you do happen to subscribe, click the notification bell. And so that you never miss a video, you better subscribe. I have to watch Shadow Vs Mewtwo for you guys. Also, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, link will be in the description below. Go check out the Lucario Boys video on Mario Matchups Ranked. His video will also be in the description below. And, that's about it. My back is sore, so now I'm gonna lie down, just for the rest of the day now. Bye!